All right, we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome
Hello.
to the trade, webcomics, and general nonsense talked about in the comic book industry. Today, I have Erick McGee and Olivia. My name just went blank.
Wylie.
Say it again.
Wylie, I just got married.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Most everybody right now that's usually one of my regular partner hosts is getting geared up for big San Diego Comic-Con or something of the like. So I am solo tonight interviewing two people. Yes! All right. Generally it's not that bad, but it's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes whenever it's con season. It happens, but that's okay. We're still rolling it with it here.
Explains the deadness on some of the Facebook groups.
Yes. A lot of groups and websites, if any of y'all are familiar with like webcomics.com or any of the Facebook and whatnot, comics-related groups have been pretty quiet lately. It's just everybody's busy with con season and...
Or recovering.
Yes, recovering and or summer. Summer kills everybody. Generally, it does. Well, I am your main host today. My name is Melony. I do the comic Ornamental. You can find it at www.ornamentalcomic.com. And Erick here does thebluenecks.com. Olivia does parshim.webcomic.ws. I'll have links down on the doobly-doo here in a bit for anybody that needs them. Alright, guys. So, Erick, let's start with you. Give us a little rundown of the Blue Necks.
All right. The Blue Necks, like what it's about?
Yeah, just give us a general synopsis.
The Blue Necks is about an interplanetary, interracial family. The father's an alien, and the mother is human, particularly a Polish human. And it's a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy, because across the streets they have a neighbor that's a Highlander, which is over 6,000. If you're familiar with Highlander, you know what I'm talking about. He is over 6,000 years old, and he is married to a vampire.
Oh no.
And they have another next-door neighbor who's also an alien who hasn't been introduced yet, but he will be at the very end of the episode 2 arc that I'm working on. And most of the humor is just family-related. It's
kind of sitcom-y.
Very sitcom-y. Think Family Guy done right. That's how one of my friends, like my not co-creator, but my writer, likes to present the Blue Necks to potentially new readers. The eventual goal of the Blue Necks is to have either a web or a television series. And yeah, that's there's also giant robots.
Right?
All right. Okay, Olivia, why don't we give a little rundown of yours?
Well, Parmesan is the creation of three ladies, myself, the redoubtable Emily Singer, she does the Beyond the Trope podcast, and Tori Kinnaman. And between the three of us, we ended up creating a story that ended up being a lot more serious than we set out to make it. It is... Sell it versus Ramblers. It is the story of, for now, two people who are trying to learn how to understand each other's cultures, how to understand culture in general, which sounds really dry, I know. But it is, I would say, a high fantasy without quite as much blood and guts, mixed with punk, if you need a genre.
Punk
I
fantasy?
was told by one of my friends, huh?
Punk fantasy? Is that what you said?
Yeah, one of my friends is Carmen without the nasty underelements. But it becomes an adventure as the story goes along, but it begins as a much more intimate exploration of society through this relationship that's slowly building, which begins when Dax, who is Lothar, I think Romani crossed with Tuareg, meets a young agent of Order, who is an investigator. But, Miss, you need a hand? Fuck off. And it goes from there. Because nobody who comes from a traveler culture is going to enjoy being accosted by a cop. Even if the accosting is in terms of, Miss, do you want me to get these guys with guns away from you? No, I got it. And the ship evolves from there and becomes an exploration of cultural identity when you are a minority culture. And the cycles and the problems that creates, both internally and externally. And I promise it's not as dry as it sounds.
It's just a build-up. It's what it is, you know.
That's interesting. It's almost eerily similar to mine. Like because
as the story goes on, it involves lots of people.
It's about immigrants, right?
Yeah.
It is about immigration, but it's also about figuring out your own place in a society that doesn't always agree with you or even stand you. And it's about personal identity under crisis. So when you're told all your life that you're from a group that's no good, how do you handle that emotionally? Either you get angry or you get quiet.
Okay.
And there aren't a lot of choices.
Or you get loud.
Okay. So.
Or you get a nest, and you learn to have a really thick shell. And a lot of the story right now, it's the prelude. A lot of the story right now is cracking that shell for both characters. So it's to explore that kind of dynamic and sort of the vicious cycle that's created when society treats someone bad because, like, screw you, I'm going to take care of myself, which makes people say, oh, they're bad. No, they've just been treated like crap all their lives.
Okay, so I think I see what's. So your comic focuses on a lot of the social issues in the world that you've made, whereas mine kind of ignores that, and they're just a normal family.
Yeah, which I actually kind of like yours. Sometimes I feel like ours is a little preachy, but it needs to be for this part of the story, for the next part of the story to make sense. Spoiler.
Yeah, I'm going through one of those phases right now. I'm getting all of the characters introduced, and then the third episode has them all get together in a barbecue arc. So
it's all a build-up.
Yeah, the build-up phase sucks.
Yes, because you're like, but this is gonna happen. Why aren't we there yet? That's the good part. Skip that.
Yes. I don't know how many times I've laid out a set of would be awesome. And this drawing it done.
Definitely.
I'm working on those scenes right now where I'm just like, I'm done, but I still have a week's worth of drawing this thing.
So are you the artist?
I am. I'm the artist and the co-writer. And the one who goes, guys, I read something cool. Can we use it? And
Sure.
Emily is the true writer of the three of us and the one who says, "Down, girl." And Tori is the one who makes sure we're not boring. She keeps the comic relief in there and reminds us that this is a concept. So it's a good balance between the three of us.
Yeah, so no DBZ filler.
No, but Emily
No.
keeps us really writing like writers as opposed to geeky fangirls going nuts, which is funny because we're all geeky fangirls. But she's the one who makes it sound professional.
Ah, man. It sounds like it's going to be good. Just give it a little time.
So, just a question: is it all
Ryan.
right if we were to just ask each other's questions?
Oh, yeah.
Questions
That's
to
fine.
kind of keep it going since you are solo.
Yes, of course. You know, any questions you're going to throw out there, go for it. That's what this is all about, is Shock Dog.
All right. So I was going to ask the both of you, what are your artistic inspirations? What artist, and what medium?
Breaking up.
Medium specifically, besides comics in general, I go with a lot of French comics. I prefer traditionally made comics, either straight up ink or in black and white or watercolor. A lot of my favorite artists make theirs with ink and watercolor. Black Sad is one of my favorite all-time comics. And I love the fact that only not too long back they finally got it translated in a nice, lovely hardbound edition from Dark Horse.
Nice.
That's besides Mike Mignola, you know, Hellboy. What can we say?
Yeah.
Hellboy, I think, influences a lot of us, but that's because I'm more of the sci-fi, paranormal, noir. Yeah.
No, Hellboy 2 wasn't as bad as people thought.
Yeah. No. I think it was fine. It completely went with the basic storyline.
That's true. It could have gone further. It could have been more outrageous.
Yes. I think they actually restrained themselves greatly. All right, Olivia, what about you? What are some of your influences?
Well, I have to admit, I am a late bloomer when it comes to comics. I started out in a family that tells stories and loves fairy tales. So probably my earliest influence was Arthur Rackham, and then I got a book when I was 9 called The Great Encyclopedia of Fairies. Very posterized style with a little French Ukrainian influence. Very sleek lines, very bright colors. Beautiful artwork. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It is gorgeous, and I swear I still try to draw like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Bright colors. So I fell in love with a lot of the urban art when I got into the city. I fell in love with a lot of the graffiti artists here in town. I live right up the street from the Art Institute of Colorado. So I've been really fascinated by some of their stuff. Right now, I think the comic I admire most is the Delilah Dirk series. I picked up Delilah Dirk in the Turkish Lieutenant, and I went like a little fangirl.
Yes.
Yes. For many reasons, but the art, I keep looking at it again and again and going, that's a trick I want to use. That's a trick I want to use. That's a trick I want to use. So, yes, exactly.
You just kind of look at it and go, yes. Delicious.
And of course, Sandman was, I really want to draw like Sandman. But the way they portray fascinating that I love it.
Yeah. Alright, there we go. How about you, Eric? Well, what's your influences?
Well, growing up, I loved the Disney cartoons, like especially Toon Disney, like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Pretty much, okay. Just think American cartoon. I loved it. Popeye, the Looney Tunes, Betty Boop, all those 1930s cartoons. I have a DVD case with 300 of those cartoons, and that nice little disclaimer, about the racism.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, one of those. The old Superman comics, which is Superman cartoons. Actually, if you watch those, the animation, especially for a 1940 cartoon, is very amazing. So, since I'm not like 90 years old, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, Disney, Toon Disney, and then I started getting into the weirder stuff like Cartoon Network, then Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, then Real Monsters, Hey Arnold, and then the one pivotal cartoon, Invader Zim.
Of course.
Let me stress. I need to stress this. The Blue Necks would not exist had I not watched Invader Zim. Had Jonan Vasquez not created Invader Zim, there would be no Blue Necks.
Nice.
Yes,
And,
the best squeeze.
Yes, the Vasquez. And from there, that's where my humor kind of evolved. Then I got into the Blue Collar Comedy Tour.
Uh-oh.
Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Larry the Cable Guy, and Ron White. And then that's where I got the brilliant idea. What would Rednecks from Outer Space be like?
That is great.
Yep.
And then I thought, wait, okay, green-skinned aliens have been done all the time. It's laughable. So I went with, okay, let's do blue. Blue Necks. And that's how the name was born.
Blue Necks. Yeah, there you go. Change it up. Throw it on its ear a little.
And then I watched Family Guy, then my art style changed forever.
Yeah, believe it or not, I don't watch any Simpsons or Family Guy at all.
I just started watching Family Guy on Netflix. The earlier seasons are good. It's the later seasons that seem to just no. Just same thing with South Park.
Some of them really start devolving because then they finally get the money, and there's less heart in it. I mean, that's the only way I can put it. Some of these have a limited shelf life, and even with a good formula, South Park, Simpsons, Family Guy, I think they devolve after time.
Well, everything has its time.
Mm-hmm.
And everything dies.
Right.
Time.
If you really want to talk about art influence, I would say Bruce Timm, Akira Toriyama, and Doug TenNapel. And if you don't know who Doug TenNapel is, Earthworm Jim.
There you go.
And what is it? Cat Scratch. That's another. That was a.
You're not talking about Cat Scratch Fever, are you?
I do listen to Uncle Ted.
Nice. Images. Come with good art. Images really boy.
So you can say that a lot of my humor is very politically incorrect and redneckish and science fiction-y. Science fiction-y-ish.
Ish.
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 Lots of ishes.
Mine's just straight up silly and terrible puns.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need to fix that.
Yeah, no. I enjoy the puns. Thank you. I am the pun master. I'm very funny.
You're very punny?
I'm very funny. It's terrible. That's why I don't know why I love puns. I don't know. Everybody thinks they're awful, and I think they're beautiful.
Okay.
The kind of puns that make you think, "Oh God, my dad told that joke."
Well-executed puns are funny. But Ben 10 Alien Force puns are not funny. Because that's what the writers think is safe comedy.
Which makes your head hurt.
Yeah. No, I do a lot of what people call dad jokes because, well, I live with my dad. So I do a lot of dad jokes.
Okay.
My little characters are Christmas ornaments that talk, and so that gives you a vast array of characters you can have and a vast amount of shapes, sizes, and colors.
Which
Nice.
And so that's pretty much infinite material right there. I focus on the main two, Frank and Cecil. Frank's the little Christmas tree-shaped ornament, the salt dough, homemade ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and so he's kind of wobbly looking, and that's intended. Number one, my art isn't going to be fantastic with these guys, but number two, it looks better like that. I don't know how else to describe it other than he looks like a little Christmas ornament cookie thing. And Cecil is a little teddy bear.
So many jokes. There's jokes coming on that one.
Yes, and I have to have all the puns, all the Christmas tree-shaped puns, like ornament freshness and whatnot.
Right.
All right.
Frank farted, and then Cecil said, "Is that a new air freshener?"
Yes. He'd been eating mints. He got to the dinner mints again.
So, question: your characters are Christmas ornaments. Is the whole comic strip Christmas themed, or?
I do not specify a holiday.
Okay.
I specify.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. I just specify that it's the holiday season.
Okay.
I don't specify whose. Because there are many households that integrate the Christmas tree in, even if they don't necessarily, believe in it. A lot of people adopt images and symbols from other, religions and cultures to use in theirs because it's become commonplace.
Okay.
I've got a lot of Jewish friends that have Christmas trees.
Mazel tov. Like I said, I'm politically incorrect.
Yes. So I leave it a bit ambiguous with that because I don't specify this is a Christian comic. I've actually got emails about that from some different churches that wanted to run my comic strip in their newsletters and whatnot. Which I told them.
No shit.
Yeah. I've had a couple of churches want to, but I've specified I want to at least be paid even, an infinitesimal amount because, you're asking for product. And I turned them down politely because I don't want to be associated with any particular religion.
Right.
They're like, well, keep Christ in Christmas. I'm like, there's no Christ. Look, see, I don't draw one. There's no mention of one in my comic strip. We just mentioned Christmas ornaments talking about day-to-day life. And the fact that one has an exceptionally huge sweet tooth is a lot of adventure right there.
Don't get me started on the Christmas thing. I'm not going there because I know too much history. And if I get started, it's bad.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to be offended here.
Yeah. Like I said, I just keep it a bit ambiguous with it. I have no idea who my target audience is at all. I'm like, I draw and write this. This is what comes out of my brain.
I suffer that too. Whenever, especially my father, asks, "Who's your target audience?" And I'm thinking, people like me. And then he's like, that's not good enough. Of course, what do you mean? It's definitely not you. You're 53 years old.
So nice. It looks so pretty from my mom. I love my mom dearly, but she's always saying, "Oh, honey, that looks so good. I remember when you were 9 and you started drawing." I love you too, Mom.
Yes, yes. My mom's one of the few people that constantly shares my comic strip every time I share a link on Facebook. I'm like, thank you, Mom. I love you too. And then all her friends are like, why are you sharing this webcomic strip? And I'm like, it's mine. Oh, it's very nice, dear. And I'm like, oh, God. You're definitely not my target audience.
Worst critiquers ever, your parents.
Yes. Why are you doing this? You're wasting your time. Or, oh, honey, how's...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's usually it's usually on one extreme or the other, which is generally fine. I mean, you appreciate both, and then you quietly put it in a box and put the lid on it.
Uh-huh. The worst was explaining it to my grandmother, who said, huh, okay, what newspaper is this for?
Yeah.
It's for websites magazine.
Yeah.
I just love telling them jokes that go over their head.
I question for the...
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, hon. Go ahead.
Oh, what are you guys working in?
What's that?
What media are you guys working in?
I am 100% digital.
50-50.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do the preliminary start on paper.
Okay.
Hold it up again. Yeah. Neat.
Yeah, see, I have found as much as everybody totes traditional versus digital, one way or the other, I do a hybrid, half and half. It's just I'm comfortable, most comfortable.
I can't do it anymore.
I've been doing this for about, I've been posting for 6 months now. Let's see. July 1st will be month 7. I've been posting since January. And I've only been late once. So, not too terrible. Yeah, not too terrible. I've only been late once. It was late by a day, and it's just because, how things work, confluence of things and sickness, and I'm usually battling allergies.
Ouch.
Well, I can't say the same thing. I think I've been late about 16 times at least. But
it happens. You can't. Especially, how long have you been doing it now, Eric?
Well, technically, I started in 2005 in high school, but in 2008, that stopped, and from 8 to 13, there were no comics.
Oh.
So I don't have 10 years of comics. But I rebooted the strip in 2013, then I rebooted it again in late 14, and that's what you're reading now. The first reboot is called Season 0 because it's a complete mess.
Right. Well, I mean, that happens. You're finding your flow.
Yeah. Most of
it's all work in progress. It's how you learn.
Right. Reviving the comic strip became a necessary because I was trying to gin up I was trying to gin up a base, but there was nothing to show nothing to show the fans, and so
exactly.
That's why the comic strip was revived twice.
Mhm. I had that problem of rebooting and
technically,
rebooting.
yeah. technically, you have been doing this since late 2014, so for about, what, 8, 9 months now?
Oh, let's see. So September 2013. Then I took what was it, like a 2-month hiatus in July of 2014. Then the second reboot happened in September of 14, and then I've been updating ever since. So roughly about 2 years.
Okay. So you're starting to get the hang of it, though.
Yeah. In fact, that's why I'm taking another break to get that comic buffer, which I've heard so many good things about. Because up until a couple of weeks ago, I have maintained a twice-a-week schedule, and that was drawing the comic like 2 days, finishing the comic 2 days before publish.
That moment of scribble.
It happens.
Yeah.
You know, you should, if you're having that much problem keeping it twice a week, why don't you just step it back to a once a week?
I can't, because most of my strip is story-based, and I do have gags in between. I can't just when it's funny, when I was doing my first reboot, when I was updating, I found that I was getting impatient with my updates. So I was the biggest fan of my own content, and I wanted to see what was happening next, and to say, "Come on, update!" Oh wait, I'm supposed to update that. I'm supposed to be working on this.
Well, that's why you should maybe just step back to one for a month or two, give yourself time to build up that buffer, and then start doing twice a week again.
Exactly, that's the plan. And I also, sometimes my comics get long, and I don't want to cut them.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar. The joys of long-form storytelling.
Yes.
That hurts.
Yes.
In fact, I'm working on one. I was working on one. It's 13. No, it's 11 frames, but it's like if we're putting this in perspective, I make comics about 18 inches wide at 350 dpi, so it's very high resolution. This comic is 33 inches tall. So it's a very tall, it's my tallest one yet.
Wow.
And so you're going to break it down into pieces, so that way you just tell everybody, you know, part 1, part 2, part 3?
It's connected. It has to be told at once. It has to be told sequentially at once. I guess you could say I do have a buffer because I do have a script. I do, whenever a comic's up, I consult the script. So, but they're not made.
I have, since I do more strips, with the strip, I have a 6-month buffer written right now. Mm-hmm. And I just keep that rolling. Drawn, I'm only a couple weeks ahead. But still.
Like in ideas and scripts? Or actual finished strips? Oh, okay.
Full finished strips. Mm-hmm. But
depends on format too.
Yeah. I mean, mine's pretty simple. Mine's pretty funny. You know, it's mine's. I don't know. I've had some people say, "Oh, that's not as hard to write or draw," but I think, yeah, overall, it doesn't matter if it's long or short form. It's work.
Right.
It's straight up work.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if these people don't realize how much work goes into these.
No,
I don't think they do at all.
Especially yours, Olivia. especially yours,
Yeah.
Olivia, because you have a lot of gradients and water paints.
Yes. But I was going to say earlier, I'm the crazy one. When we decided to be serious about this, I took a year and just drew all through that year. So I have what amounts to a 6-month buffer based on what we've got, at least 3 years of script all ready to go.
Nice.
And all I have to do is take what we wrote and turn it into pictures, which sometimes is what slows me down because I'm this scene going, okay, how? Especially since there are a lot of bilingual jokes in the story sometimes, and there are a lot of talking head scenes that I have to find ways to make interesting. For instance, I just did a scene that was in an apartment that I reached out to the city zoo because I looked at it and said, I am not doing another apartment. It's boring. And then I started drawing it and realized, wait a minute, I'm drawing a Victorian-esque zoo? How did I do this to myself? This is iron filigree. That was an interesting moment. But it turned out well, so I was happy with the result. But yeah, it definitely takes time. But the big lesson I learned in that yeah?
Acting.
Oh.
Acting matters.
Is the biggest thing. And I also learned not to rush. And if I don't like it, I now have a big enough buffer that I toss it and start over. And that's my big thing. Don't let redo it. Do not go, good enough and put it up. If you're not happy with it, I'm not going to be happy with it. And proud of what you put up is my motto anyway. But I am, and I really enjoy working it. I know people say it's awfully simplistic, but to me that's one of the good things because, hey, a paintbrush is simplistic too, and look what you can do with a paintbrush.
Yeah.
I don't like it when the program does more work than you do, if you know what I mean. I do like doing digital. I ink and pen, but I was spending over $100 a month on ink, paper, and pens, and I didn't make that much of the time. So I said, okay, saving money. Buy one computer once. I was happy with the results after a while. It took a while because the learning curve to kick in, but it was worth it. And finding the right computer took a while too.
So you were actually doing it on paper and paint for a while. This comic.
Yes, this was a different project, but I originally really loved ink and paper, and I switched over simply because it wasn't economically feasible color paper and an ink. And I sometimes still miss it, but I have a very physical job, so that gives me the physical connection that I need, and then I come home and work on my computer, and that's my relaxation. When I'm drawing, the world goes away, and all that matters is the story I'm telling, and that's a good feeling. Although I admit I've gotten a little lazier since I worked in graphics on the computer because I found the fill bucket. And now what I do is I draw out a pattern or a style that I like, and I just go fill. Blue sky, stormy skies. The culture, the Bafar, who are the main culture in the story right now, they have very intricate weaving on their clothing, lots of patterns.
Yes, I see that.
Middle Eastern colors. I draw those patterns once. And then I make them into patterns because I'm not drawing that thing again.
It's even easier if you make it a 3D model.
That's a good idea because I've had problems where I built say, a skirt, and you can very much tell that it was patterned. It looked the worst I've ever done, that I hardly had not done was the Okay, they're similar to the 1890s of Belgium. A bar. Walls on the walls, lots of glass, mirrors on the walls, pictures of dancing ladies on the walls. Got halfway through with, can I do this? And woman, again, so much, she's so pretty. Halfway in, why did I do this? It was a learning experience, and after that, I Phil.
Gotta love the fill tool.
So what is your guilt?
Yes.
Come again?
Yes. Unfortunately, I got spoiled with at least coloring my comics digitally. Oh.
I highly recommend it.
Phil bucket?
Yeah. You know, I compared my speed with that of doing watercolor, and it's about the same.
Are those moments where you're just hitting the fill button again and again, and that takes forever?
Yeah, especially if the if it doesn't fill.
Yeah.
That's just annoying. Yeah, the annoying.
I have. You were asking for tips. I don't know if this works in all programs, but do your line drawing, and then multiply that second layer. It makes all the white space clear, and that means you can paint on the layer underneath and still have a perfect pristine line drawing on the top. It is a godsend. I've been using it ever since I learned it about.
What do you use? Do you use Photoshop?
So much. So if you multiply in Photoshop, but I'm not a Photoshop aficionado.
Yeah.
Warned. So
yes, it's in Photoshop pretty much exclusively the multiply tool.
Well,
let's see. That's mostly what I use. Is I've got a Manga Studio. I've got both 4 and 5, and then I use Photoshop and Illustrator.
I use
tons and tons of time, because now instead of, say I've got somebody in a flowing shirt that has lots of wrinkles, instead of fill buttoning every spot in that shirt, take a brush tool, brush all of that, and then that multiply layer on top means fill a pristine it. So yeah, it's a really great tool.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. I have a cheat I use in Photoshop. It's called multi-fill. It's a filter, and you do it on you make a second layer like you would like you're suggesting with the multiply on the first layer with your original inks, second layer with your inks. I'll choose that layer, filter, make certain it has to be an 8-bit on the channel, but make certain it's on 8-bit, multi-fill, and it fills all the spaces. And then I flatten, just that layer, and it gets rid of the black lines, but it flattens out all those colors and fills those spaces. And then I can take my paint bucket tool and just drop in the basic color, because I'm sneaky like that, and it saves me millions of miles of hours of time.
Or you could just make your line work a reference.
That's how I am with.
You can do it that way. It takes me 2 hours maybe to color with the multi-fill.
Oh.
And you know, I like how to terms. A lot of graphic artists or back in the day of Jack Grace. You know,
Olivia, you're cutting out really
on
badly.
budget and on time.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you're cutting out really badly. Give it a minute. Let it catch up.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, a little better. A little better. It's a little choppy, but not as bad.
Yeah, so we missed about 80% of that.
And it fell out completely. Gosh dang it. Let me invite her back. And now I can't find the guy. She'll hop back on hopefully here in a minute. Anyways. Yeah, I learned about the multi-field tool a couple years back, and because I use an older version of Photoshop, I use CS3. I've got the full master suite. It works wonderfully, at least with the older version. I don't know about any of the newer ones beyond 3.
I have no idea if I use Clip Studio Paint, which is it's Manga Studio. It's just got a different name, different branding. It's the same company too, which is weird. So I believe Clip Studio is the Japanese version, and Manga Studio is another retail version, but it's the same damn program.
Well, I bought it for $20, so I said, "What the hell?"
That's Manga Studio 4.
Yes.
Yeah,
I had to get version 4 because my giant monster computer setup is just slightly older, and I haven't updated any of the graphics cards in it a little bit and whatnot. So I had to go with 4. 5 just does not run on Windows 7.
Huh. I don't remember that
It has
requirement.
to. Yeah, I ran into that when I got Windows 5 on one of the Amazon Flash sales.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to catch it on sale when it was dirt cheap. And kept that in my back pocket, tried loading it up, kept crashing, kept going through all sorts of issues. Finally got a hold of somebody else who had 5, and they specified, "Oh, you have to have Windows 8 or higher to use it." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I appreciate that."
Yes. Speaking of Windows, I am actually thrilled for Windows 10. Mostly because of the Cortana feature.
There she is. You back, Olivia?
I mean, not working in the bedroom anymore. Sorry. Telling my husband that I'm going to have to stay up here because the internet's given out in the bedroom. Sorry. So what I was saying was all the greats.
The troll face.
All had lifetime by tricks, like we do. It was just different tricks. So that's how I came to terms, because I had some people, traditional artists, say, "Well, you're lazy." My response was, "Well, it works." And we live today, not back then.
Yeah. No. It's just a different tool. That's all it is. There's no lazy versus unlazy factor or anything to it. It's just a different tool.
It's not a sin to erase, and it's not a sin to undo.
Exactly.
Badly.
All right. Well, I'm going to steer the conversation here to a little comics-based news. So, I saw in recent papers, back on the 13th, in fact, there is a college student over in California at a community college. She's an English major. I'm not going to specify her name. People can look this up on the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund's news feed. She is challenging a English class. It specifies in graphic novels. Its main focus is in graphic novels. There are a total of, let's see, I believe 10 books that are on the reading list, on the syllabi, for the class. And let's see. She was taking the class because she's getting, like I said, in the English, Associate Arts in English, and she needed this. It's a mid-level English class, and so it fulfills part of her requirements. She is challenging 4 of the books that they're using in the class, 4 graphic novels, specifically. Now, this is after she's already completed the course. She believes, and these are her exact words, they're pornography. The 4 books she is challenging, the 4 books she is challenging, claiming that they should be not only taken out of this class, but in her words, completely made unavailable to anybody, because she believes they are garbage and pornography. One is Persepolis by Marijan Septrapi. She is challenging, let's see, one of the Sandman collection, The Dollhouse. Let me get the list here. Persepolis, Fun Home, Why the Last Man, Volume 1, and Sandman, Volume 2, The Doll's House. She believes they are pornography and garbage. As she is quoted saying, "I expected Batman and Robin, not pornography."
Oh, boo-hoo. Because I'm looking at Persepolis and this artwork, I'm already hooked.
Yes. No, it's a autobiographical tale. Marijan lived in Iran during some of the insurgents here, not too, in the past, and so she tells it from her point of view. And after she left, she wrote and drew this, and yeah, this is one of many of the ones she is challenging, saying they're pornography and garbage. And I'm sitting here going, now, wait a minute. You're challenging it after you've already done with the class, not during. You should have challenged it during, number 1. Number 2, most places, I took college classes for many, many years, you get your syllabi a month or more in advance. You could have looked these books up already and had plenty of time to change classes, to drop the class, to find another one that fulfills the requirement, because the school offers several that could have fulfilled the requirement. She didn't have to take this specific class. Now, she's 20 years old, and instead of going through the basic steps of challenging the books, she has gone to her parents, and they're protesting. Yeah.
Grow up.
Basically, grow a fucking pair. You got tits.
Girls don't cry, right?
My response goes, well, I'm going beyond grow up. My response is, you need to walk through the Louvre, you need to read Greek myth, you need to look at any of the Bible, honestly, and realize that sex is part of life, and the human body is part of life. Go look at our great classics, our great art. A lot of Greek myth is Zeus raping somebody. That's the classics of Greek myth.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff in the Louvre, I'm no expert on the Louvre, but a lot of the stuff in the Louvre is somebody naked trying to get laid. If you really look at it, if you're paying attention, it's somebody trying to get laid, or somebody having a baby, or somebody about to get laid. We're animals with spirits. We like sex. That's okay. Our culture has got to get over this idea that sex is dirty. And until it does, we're going to have this stupid...
It's a very puritanical mindset, and it's an old one that's been drilled into people's heads for so long that it takes quite a while to take it back out again. The associate professor who's teaching the class, Ryan Bartlett, defended his curriculum, specifying, I choose several highly acclaimed, award-winning graphic novels. Each one of these has won several awards. In my English 250 course, not because they are purportedly racy, but because each speaks to the struggles of the human condition. As Faulkner states, the only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself. The same may be said about reading literature. The characters in the chosen graphic novels are all struggling with issues of morality, self-discovery, heartbreak, etc. The course in question has also been supported by the faculty, administration, and approved by the board of the school. Nevertheless, the girl and her parents, and like I said, I don't want to specify their names because everybody can look this up just by looking at the challenge for Persepolis. They want them eradicated from the system. They said they should not be available to anybody, and I think that's garbage. Persepolis is about somebody's point of view during a war. Mm-hmm. So that's autobiographical and historic. The rest of them are more fictional, Fun Home, Why the Last Man, and Sandman, but they still talk about different parts of the human condition. I love Sandman. Out of all of these, I have not read one of them, which is Fun Home, so I can't say what Fun Home is about. But that's just because, you can't read everything, but now I can. I'm going to put that on my reading list next.
I think it's funny.
Aside from, I don't like it. Oh, you go ahead. I've talked too much.
I think it's funny that, much like a dictator, she wants to eradicate the knowledge of this. And here's my question. All right, Missy, tell that to the porn industry.
Yeah, you cannot eradicate something like this, number one. Just because you disagree with it, you're in college. This is intended to challenge you and to broaden your horizons. This is intended to ruffle your feathers. Yes, it may be graphic novel form, but it's still intended to push. It's illustrating in more than one way, both in a written as well as an illustrated sense, things about life. And if you want to hide yourself in a little box, go lock yourself in a room and never come out again.
And my response is, again, read your history. Look what happens when we say that's not fit for consumption. Bad things. I'm not going to go through the list of historic examples because it's long. But if you read history and we do not allow this sort of knowledge, they're not cultures we want to emulate. And my second comment is, it's America. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to agree with it unless it's directly hurting somebody. And no, honey, you being disturbed is not hurting you. Unless it is hurting someone, You're free to do what you want. That's the point of being American. Whatever other people say, that's the point of being American, is free will within limits. And society limits are not supposed to destroy that free will. So when you start saying this, you can say, I don't want to read it. Fine. Can't say nobody should read it.
No, unless you were forced to read it, that's different.
But other people like them.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Well, like I said, she had ample time to not only go over the material, but to also drop the class or change classes. If you don't agree with something a class is about after you've gotten into it, you've got weeks, if not a full month or more, after the class has started to drop.
Mm-hmm. Or to drop or to change. Professor, I'm comfortable with this. That's fine too. What's not fine is to go through everything and then, like you were saying, and then complain. You quietly, I've had classes where I quietly walked up to the professor and said, I'm really uncomfortable with what's going on in class, and things get worked out that way. This way, you're looking for a fight, essentially, and that does bother me.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to, they sell copies of this, of course, in the, store there on campus, obviously, because they have to sell the books for everybody in the class to read them. And they said, well, they shouldn't be available to everybody. They should have age restrictions on them. I mean, just this list, because they said, oh, they're underage kids on our campus. Majority of those books that I'm thinking of right now, some of them do say 18 and older on them, and most places I've ever been to card, even bookstores. So
has she read Wuthering Heights? Has she?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Has she read any classical literature? You know how much death, destruction, raping, pillaging, and beheading. God, I can remember quite a bit of suicide and beheading.
Let's look at the quintessential story of childhood. Tom Sawyer. They swing a dead cat around and eat a frog and basically vandalize the church. And this is our quintessential American childhood story. Ray Bradbury tells the great story Dandelion Wine, and the kids get into trouble after trouble after trouble after trouble in that story. These are our classics. These are the stories that say, guess what? Growing up is messy, and it is trouble, and you'll still get through it. And that's the point, is characters are supposed to go through all these trials in order to teach you can go through all this and survive and come out better. And if you can't handle the struggle, you can't grow.
Yeah.
And the idea that you should lock away anything that makes you struggle, here's the crap out of me, because that's the only way you grow.
Exactly.
Sorry, rant over.
It's all right. No. That's what this is intended for, is discussion. Okay. So here's another one. You guys have, of course, been paying attention to modern pop culture. We've got plenty of television and movies coming out based on comic books. They're in the works right now of doing Lucifer from Neil Gaiman and developing it into a TV series.
Ooh.
Fox is doing that right now.
Oh dear.
And there is an American Family Association called 1 Million Moms against it. They're raising hoopla, the word used.
Mothers Against Canada, that's all I have to say.
Yes. They're protesting the release of Lucifer because they believe it's personifying Lucifer as a nice guy.
No, Dan Kitty.
Are they better?
Well, yeah, number one, let's see, Lucifer's a fallen angel. Fallen.
He's already in trouble.
But he fell for a reason, and the comic series Lucifer explores that reasoning. And, of course, the TV series is going to follow suit. And let's see. All right. Okay.
I complain that Fox is doing it, because that
Vertigo Comics?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. The show, which is based on the character Neil Gaiman, introduced in his critically acclaimed comic Sandman. Yeah, he was originally introduced in Sandman, and then they did a spin-off called Lucifer. Follows the bored Lord of Hell as he leaves the underworld and discovers a new hobby and pleasure in helping the good cops of the LAPD solve crimes and catch criminals. From Fox's initial description of the series, this sounds like your average crime procedural with a supernatural twist. But according to the petition put together by 1 Million Moms, the show's mischaracterization of Satan as a friendly, helpful, and likable person is an affront to the Bible.
Which doesn't have enough blood
Okay, may I interject?
On its own?
Yeah. Moreover, its inclusion of graphic acts of violence, a nightclub featuring scantily clad women, oh my, and a demon, just further exacerbates that they receive as a further insult to Christianity and Christian morals. According to their petition, the program previews mischaracterization of Satan, departs from true biblical teachings about him, and inaccurately portrays the beliefs of the Christian faith.
Christians, and
Number one, how many different pieces of Christianity are there? Thousands.
Yeah.
There are thousands and thousands, up to millions of different interpretations of the Bible. Mm-hmm. Which version of the Bible are we talking about? Are we talking about the original Hebrew? Are we talking about with the Dead Sea Scrolls? Are we talking about King James Version? I mean,
I get where it's going from.
I would like to.
I do not know the names. I do not know the Bible as some mythology, but there's a story in the Bible where somebody is about to attack a town. So the lady of the town decides she's going to fix this. So she goes to his tent, gets him drunk, waits till he passes out, and cuts his head off. This is normal in the Bible. This is what the stories that they're telling. So how is the new stuff new? It's not. I mean, violence? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So, yeah.
Yeah, no.
That one.
Yeah. This is one of those ones where people are jumping on a bandwagon and not actually even looking at the material that they're jumping on the bandwagon against, except the very generalized idea from who originally wrote the petition.
So,
fathers don't read the book. Sorry, I keep. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So, I will tell you. I am LDS, and we are Christians. You see, a lot of other Christian sects don't believe we're Christians. So, remember when the Golden Compass came out? Now, I know the author of the books were he was pretty anti-Christian, but I went and saw the movie anyway. You see, we don't get offended that much about media. And by the sounds of it, I have never heard of this comic book before. I don't even think I'll watch it. And it's probably not just going to be because it's called Lucifer. I really don't like activists from any side. They are very vitriolic, and and especially the Christian ones, because they're not really conveying a Christ-like attitude. So, with the Golden Compass, there was a lot of hoopla by the born-agains about whether they're going to kill God in that film, and that's not what happened. So, again, I don't know the truth. I guess you kind of did explain the premise of it. Okay, that sounds like. Okay, well, how about this? I have a frickin' vampire in my comic strip. My main character is half alien. I like sci-fi. I do. I mean, okay, like what we're doing right now, using technology to talk to each other. That's technology's real. So these people are very hypersensitive about this. They're overreacting. They've overreacted, and they've made themselves look like fools.
That's the problem. They delegitimize their own argument by screaming too loud.
Yeah.
And that goes for everybody.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the same group that frequently attacks a number of different comic and comic book related industry things. Let's see, the group is responsible for boycott attempts against Life with Archie, which featured the marriage of Archie's openly gay friend Kevin Keller, and against Marvel's Astonishing X-Men, which features the marriage of another gay character, Northstar. The organization, though, has never successfully thwarted the publication and distribution of any of the comics listed. If anything, they demonstrate that even in an era where the Comics Code Authority are decades behind, there are still parties out there who would attempt to regulate and restrict constitutionally protected entertainment at the expense of free expression.
Exactly.
Yeah, see, my thing is, listen, it's pop culture. It's out there, and you can turn your television off. You don't have to watch it.
And I don't have to make a comic strip with gay characters.
You know, you don't have to make it, you don't have to read it, you don't have to buy it, you don't have to watch it. Discuss it amongst yourselves. If you agree that within your little group, that's fine. But trying to say, you need to shut this down because I feel offended, is like telling me that, you know, you can't eat a donut because I'm on a diet.
Mm-hmm. I have had friends do that before, and I usually grin and bite in harder.
And continue eating in front of them, telling them, look, I love you, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop me from eating my damn donut.
I don't even say I love you, I say, because I have a freak of perversity, and if you tell me you can't do that because that's offensive, if you tell me I feel strongly about this, I'll say, okay, let's talk about it. If you say you shouldn't be doing that, I'll usually go, yeah, pick it up.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, it definitely comes out in my writing because there's a big difference in the way characters handle why are you doing that, and you shouldn't be doing that. If you say why are you doing that, it can become a conversation. If you say you shouldn't be doing that, it becomes screw you, and that ends the conversation real quick. And actually, that's the biggest problem I have with groups like that of any sort. Groups like that tend to end the conversation and turn it into an argument, and arguments don't help anybody. Conversations do. So
I'd much rather focus on ad hominems and not attack the ideas. Attack the person, but not the ideas.
That too. And that's a huge problem. When you start attacking each other, you're not helping anyone. So I don't have a problem with, like I used the example earlier, I don't have a problem with the movie Thought existing. I'm not going to see it because it disturbs the crap out of me. But the human condition is that there are many ways to be human. Some you don't have to like. And people need to get over this idea that because it exists, you're offended. Like you were saying, just because it exists doesn't mean you have to deal with it.
You
know, that's the cop-out mechanism. But I like the cop-out mechanism when it comes to this kind of situation. You turn, you walk away.
If how many of you have seen The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
as much as I hate that movie,
No. Oh, oh, no. Oh.
does that mean M. Night Shyamalan should stop making movies? Maybe, but I'm not going to force him to stop making movies.
Yeah, M.
There are
Night
moments.
Shyamalama Ding Dong there. He might need to refocus on what he's doing personally. Now, I saw something recently that he's done. He helped executively produce, and I think he had some influence on the writing and the directing, but he wasn't the one actually doing the full directing the way I understood it. It's on Netflix right now, Sense8. Have you guys seen it yet?
What's
No.
that?
Sense8.
Oh, no.
You need to see it. It's actually pretty good. I think he's gone a better direction now, but Airbender, he fucks it up. He had fantastic material.
Okay.
He had
That's
a
it.
huge amount of fantastic material to work with, and he shat all over it.
So here's my reaction in the theater when the fire bending, when they get to the camp with the earthbenders and they're on fucking Earth and they're on the ground. There's my reaction.
I had that response earlier. He's white.
His name's Ong? No, it's Aang.
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 Aang. Long A. They already specified how to pronounce all the names.
I actually had that problem with the new Peter Pan movie as well. I know I don't look it, but I'm half Native American, and I get really pissed off that they turned Tiger Lily white, because it's like,
Oh.
great, we get cut out most of the time, and now you're going to do this? Thanks.
What tribe?
Menominee,
Ooh,
Upper Wisconsin.
okay.
And my father's Irish. That's this.
Okay.
My nickname is Mushroom.
Smokes with shrooms?
No, it's kind of a long story, so I'll try to cut it short, but my tribal name is Otter, but the word for otter is very close to the word for mushroom. The word for otter is Metaskwe, and the word for mushroom is Metaskwe. So,
Yes, they're very phonetically close.
yeah. So, but I only say that as background to, you can't be serious, you just did that. Please don't do that. But I hate it when any culture is
I need to
basically
look at that again.
appropriated like that. And in my own writing, I try to be extremely careful to do all my research really, really well, even though I'm doing an alternate Earth piece. I want to respect the cultures that, yes, I am borrowing from, rather than appropriating. It's a hard balance, but M. Night Shyamalan didn't manage it, and neither did the people who did the new Peter Pan, which still makes my head hurt.
Oh, you mean the live-action Peter Pan?
Yeah, that one.
The
Yes.
awful one that you
Okay.
need to rub your eyes with acid afterwards.
Yeah, if we're going to boycott something, let's boycott those.
Right?
That movie's trailer really caught me because they used a police song. Everything. I think it was. No. Like da 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 da
I
da.
remember, it was a rock song, and you're like, Peter Pan to rock. Could be good, will be awful.
Probably. Yeah, because I thought you meant the cartoon, and I clearly see.
No.
Oh no, she's definitely dark skinned.
As a rock and roll girl, I love rock and roll, but Peter Pan and rock and roll do not mix. Do not mix.
That's the same as the. Has anybody seen the Spider-Man Broadway play? Yeah. Imagine Spider-Man and singing. It's just.
I can just.
No.
My only response to something like that is South Park's episode.
Nice.
What is it? Broadway. Broadway bromance. That episode.
Taking that back to the comics, when you guys are writing, how do you, and granted, I know both of you guys do more gag stuff, but how do you respect cultures while not saying, because I don't come from that culture, I can't use it? Because when we don't talk about cultures, they die out, but at the same time, we don't want to go Hollywood on it, if you know what I mean. Oh, I like that color. Let's steal it. So how do you guys manage that?
I've tried to do as much research into the culture as possible, even going as far as talking to somebody in the culture, if available. Trying to get their perspective, their point of view, tell them what I'm doing, and maybe glean something from that. You know, and kind of, I make friends. I make a lot of friends, and I use them as filters. Okay, does this sound like Hollywood cheesy filter through your culture and or religion and or XYZ? And some of them will tell me yes, most of them tell me no. No, that's actually kind of respectful. Now, you're always going to offend somebody when making anything.
Yeah.
Case in point here, I offend everybody. I offend everybody. I was raised LDS. I am not LDS. So, no offense to you, Eric. I am not.
Okay.
I fully know the Mormon faith, and I do not agree with it, so I left. And I am pagan.
Woo! Same here.
Yeah. And, you know, that's just the way my faith went. But it was due to a number of...
Did you have
I
an
just don't
asshole
agree
bishop?
with... Yeah. Well, I don't agree with a lot of things within the basic religion, and culture definitely has a lot to do with a number of religions. You know, you can't always separate the two, especially depending upon the area you were raised in.
Yeah.
I'm raised over here right on the border to Colorado, New Mexico. I've got a lot of native reservations around me. So there are a lot of missionaries here from a lot of different faiths. And so I did a lot of exploration myself. I learned a lot. I grew a lot, and I realized how much I didn't want to be a part of that. But because I learned from that, I can now use it in my writing, in my art, you know, in my comics. But that's me. So I make a lot of friends in a lot of different faiths and cultures. I've got friends in India. I've got friends in Japan. I've got friends in Siberia. And if I want to run something by them, saying, "Hey, I've got this character. They've got, you know, this type of cultural background. Could you relate to them? You know, does this sound right?" They'll let me use them as a sounding board, as a filter. So if you're that worried about it, go make some friends. The internet is here. This lovely technology we can use to talk to people and to get a better perspective, and it makes our writing much better. Now, if you can physically go visit people, it's much better, but not always. You know, I'm poor. Poor as dirt. So, you know, I don't have that luxury of being able to always go visit people, but when I can, I do. And, man, it makes for some great adventures.
So, I remember this thread on webcomic underdogs about political correctness.
I saw that one.
I adamantly disagree with it. I don't believe in being politically correct, and I also don't believe in pandering. So, if I could I thought I fixed this issue with my archive, but I have a witch doctor character.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he's black, but you wouldn't know it if you saw the picture. So take a look.
Right. Yeah, you just see the giant mask.
Right, it's an eagle mask. So what I did with this character, instead of pandering, how about just be respectful?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know, I was being pretty respectful here. I mean, I knew I wanted this character because there's already a bunch of immigrants in my comic strip, and I'm a genuine white boy with Irish in me, actually Scottish.
And back.
But yes, the witch doctor character, I knew that I wanted him to be African, not black, African.
Right.
And he was going to have an African accent, and well,
Got your head bit off?
what's that?
You got your head bit off?
No, not yet. But to be honest, I haven't experienced any backlash from that. In fact, I hope this doesn't bite my head off. A large portion of my fan base is African American.
Okay.
So that's neat.
Well, if you haven't received any backlash, then you're doing it fine. I get backlash just because I don't mention Christmas or Christ in mine, and I've specified before, I stay ambiguous to it just because I want a holiday-based strip. I don't want to specify any particular religion. I've got characters that represent other faiths, too, that are coming up eventually. That, yes, I'm going to rub people the wrong way. I figure somebody is always going to get offended, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't like aliens. Maybe they don't like the color of somebody's skin because they think it should be this way instead of that way, or what. You're always going to offend somebody. So I say just kind of do the best you can, be as respectful as you can. Like I said, I make friends a lot and ask them to be my filter on different particular things, like different cultures or faiths. But just do the best you can. And if you offend somebody, apologize the best you can, but say I'm not changing it just because you're offended.
You see, I don't agree with that, because let's say that 2,000 people you have offended. Are you really going to apologize to all 2,000 of them, or just continue on with your comic strip?
Fast apology.
So I would say make the comic strip you are going to do, and only censor it when you feel uncomfortable. Now you can get feedback, but if they laugh, it's okay.
I'm actually sort of terrified of this myself. I've recently been approached by a group called Native Realities Press, and originally I approached them at a con, essentially mousily walking up and saying, I know you guys said you wanted ideas. I have an idea. I'll be doing a script based on the mythology of my grandmother's tribe. I am bloody terrified because I lived on the reservation until I was about 9 years old. And we started moving around. I haven't been back since, except for quick visits. And even then, it was very much, who's this? Oh, it's Hiawatha. Okay, you're allowed. It was always
right.
So I have been, like you were saying, I've been calling elders, and it's kind of funny because I have to give my pedigree before I'll start talking, and that's traditional. If you know Navajo folks, they'll often give the clan list first. But it's always funny coming.
It's always the maternal too. Most people don't seem to realize Navajo specifically goes through the mother, not the father.
And the shaman does as well. And so I have to start with the great-grandma and my grandma and my mom, and I still get questions about, well, You know, what are you going to use this for? And trying to explain, and I mean this in all respects, these people are very wise, but trying to explain what a graphic novel is to an 80-year-old elder on the reservation is sometimes funny and sometimes terrifying because they think I'm...
Just tell them you're writing a story, you're also illustrating it. Don't specify that it's a graphic novel because that's a newer set of terms.
What I've been doing is simply telling them that I want to make the old stories more accessible to pre-teenagers and teenagers so that the stories are told again and they don't die. Because that's the great terror is if a story isn't told, it dies.
Yes.
But I'm speaking to this because I'm utterly terrified that I'm going to get it wrong and put this out and the Menominee Nation is going to go... So it's terrifying. But
no,
like you said, you do your best. You do what you can.
Yeah, as long as you're not at the final product and you're running it by an elder or somebody you respect and they're just going, what is this? That's when you're going, okay, I did it wrong. I fucked up. But, you know, like with my strip, for instance, just again as a reference point, I offend people with it. I do. I've had a number of Christian groups tell me they're offended by it. I'm like, I've been making this for 6 months, and it's about silly ornaments talking. And being addicted to sugar. I don't see how you're offended, honestly. I'm sorry you're offended, but I'm not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just do a general apology to anybody that says they're offended, saying, I'm sorry, but I'm not stopping just because you're offended. It's just ingrained in me to at least give a small apology because it's manners.
Yeah. I couldn't resist poking fun at this in Parmesan. There are several parts where the traveler character essentially says, oh yeah, we camp there, we make pretty good money in that country, but we tend to leave. Well, why? Well, because they preach at us. We get sick of it after about 2 weeks, and we leave. And I make jokes about, oh yeah, we go there, they tell us to go to school. We go there, they preach at us. And we go there and they tell us we're from hell. Oh yeah, we keep moving.
Yeah, yeah.
In a way that allows you, but at the same time joke about it. And that's the other thing. Writing's a lot of, making comics like this is a lot of catharsis. And do you guys feel like that? Like you get a lot of your own emotions out by putting them on paper, putting them in pictures.
All the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All the time.
Because unlike what some people might think about cartoons, acting matters.
Yes. Very much so.
And you haven't gotten a chance to see it, but I also take from Ren and Stimpy when it comes to my faces. I always try with my newer strips to see how far I can push the limit of the faces. Like I can make it really Japanese chibi, or psychotic and very SpongeBob-esque faces.
Disturbing.
Yes, very disturbing.
Yes.
I let the art tell the joke. I let the art I let the art convey the emotions, and I let the words just explain the emotion. I don't like comic strips that have one huge word bubble with 4 paragraphs of text.
I need to work on that.
That's bad. That's bad.
I designed the Blue Nicks specifically to be easy to read. Like a single word will be, maybe it's like 2 sentences. That's it. That's the limit.
Wow.
I'm afraid.
I have problems because that. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm getting a disconnect.
It's okay. With longer form, it is harder. I mean, I'm writing a longer form story on the side. I've been writing it for a number of years. That was originally the one I was going to launch, but it's just not ready yet. So
Yeah.
I've been working on it, and I'm probably going to put another year, 2 years work into it. But that's what I've been running into with writing and drawing my long-form stories, Demon Nonsense, is you really have to watch your sentence structure. You really have to break it down
Mm-hmm.
and see if you can come up with a new word or phrase instead of having a 4 or 5 sentence paragraph. Well, what can I cut out that still conveys that same message, just this section?
And
Well, I'd
And
actually, while talking about this, I would like your guys' advice, because
Okay.
it sounds like you've looked at my work, and shamefully, I have not looked at Blue Necks. But I like to think that I get a little leeway because Dax is a Parmashangro, a storyteller. So all of this is very formalized storytelling style, and it's supposed to add flavor. But please roast me right now. How does it work? Does it not? Bug you as a reader?
overall, I think you're doing fine with conveying art-wise, general story, acting, structures of your panels. You're okay there. But again,
Okay.
you're still learning. So
Yeah.
don't give yourself too much of a hard time. I have given myself, on just the strip alone, a 2-year leeway. I'm giving myself 2 years to find my routine and to improve it. Because there's a flow to it. There is. Both the writing and the artwork have a flow. I finally figured out my flow just recently with doing the 50-50. I tried doing digital. I have several strips I put up that are just straight digital that I just don't think they're the quality I want, at least right now. And that always changes, of course. It's a bit ambiguous. But I think you need to relook at your writing, at least the dialogue itself, and maybe see if you can't try to compress it down farther.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
Either
at
that or break it farther out. If it's 4 or 5 sentences that just cannot be broken down, break them up into different speech bubbles and extend your panels out further. That's
okay.
I see that you are not afraid to make tall comics, which is a good thing, because
The only way that gets across.
Right, like I explained, I just recently on the fly. This is okay. So I have 4 formats. I have a single row, I have a double row, and that's like 2 rows, and a triple, and a quad. I just today made a quint, a 5 row. And I am much more satisfied with the way this is going. See, as a webcomic artist, we don't have the constraints of newspapers.
Infinite canvas.
Yes, we do have the infinite canvas, but I don't know about you guys. My eventual goal is to get this published at some point in the future.
And you're
I keep that in mind with mine, just because eventually I do want to get this published. But if you don't plan on publishing it, and you want to stay with the infinite canvas, or you're just going to go the digital publishing route, then go for it. Make it as long as you want, honestly.
And for Emily and Tori and I, it's just to tell a story.
And,
tell a story that we enjoy.
You also need to find the way that you want to treat your comic strip. For instance, I don't treat my comic strip like a comic strip. I treat it like a sitcom. I treat it like a cartoon show.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's going to be a lot of expression in there.
Right.
And also, not very dialogue heavy. And only important characters will be in the frame. And if you're in the frame, you're doing something. Because the director said so.
Well, I treat my backgrounds, because I'm not very good with backgrounds, not yet.
Me neither.
I'm still working on them myself. But that's why mine is rather simplistic, and I take it kind of from the point of view of doing a stage production.
Oh,
and
nice.
a lot of stage productions are very, very simple backgrounds. You convey the basic idea of if they're in a room, or what the basic stage setup is. Are they inside a house? Are they outside a house? And that a lot of stage production. It's just a little here, a little there. Yeah, PvP online, they did that a lot, especially in the beginning. And
Right,
he still falls back onto that a lot, too.
I think one person said that his comic strip is akin to Shakespeare because they didn't have very many props or backgrounds.
Right. And sometimes I pull those kinds of tricks because I really enjoy the atmosphere that drawing the cityscapes creates for Parmesan, but I always love it when I get to a fire scene, or scene by a campfire or something like that, because I get to focus on the characters and stop drawing the stupid buildings. Or some scene where I don't have to draw so many bloody buildings, because I swear it pulls the time that a script takes to draw when you have to do all those backgrounds. It's worth it for me.
When the background calls for cool giant robots, you put cool giant robots.
Exactly.
Yes.
But every once in a while, I still cringe and go, "Oh crap! I have to set it there. Oh no."
Well,
But,
constantly having to redraw Christmas trees after a while, you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to put like the tip of the tree right here, and maybe some presents there, and that's it. And then it's like, I give a horizon line. Yeah, I give like a horizon line, like, so they're usually in the living room, at least in most of my scenes, and the living room is blue, it's kind of a couple shades of blue.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have different themed colors in their house, in different rooms, and so I went with blue. It's just kind of a nice contrast to the greens and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the carpet's a darker blue, and the walls are a lighter blue, and that's it.
But what you're saying about treating is a good point, because I've never thought about that. I've just thought, hey, I have a story to tell, and I need to get the story told.
Right, I think South Park can give us some good advice.
It's definitely, especially their earlier episodes, actually have some good lessons, honestly. You can learn a lot of story lessons from a lot of different pop culture. It just depends upon how you break it down. I took a couple of storyboarding classes when I was in college, and we broke down all sorts of different television, movies, and occasionally a couple of books. But we talked about different setups, because, like, for instance, with just storyboarding, you just need to basically convey the general aspects. You don't have to get very specific, except with the characters themselves, because you're needing to convey the shot. Exactly. Is it overhead? Is it underhead? Is it, it's the two of them talking. Okay, what angles? And it's just a different mindset, but it helps with storytelling.
Yes,
this is all storytelling.
Have to get dialogue across. It makes it so much more interesting to.
Also, you can use your dialogue to hide the fact that you didn't want to draw a background.
Yes, I've definitely pulled that. Hands moving, hands doing things saves so much time. It's not drawing faces. It's not drawing a bunch of stuff. It's hands on a table. And that can actually tell you a lot. Hands being held, hands pulling away from each other. The way a hand, like the hand is the second face. So that's my cheat for that kind of thing, is to switch to something else rather than doing the full talking heads or the full scene. Is focus on something minuscule, much like some of the Japanese art house movies. They'll focus on just a rose while somebody's talking, or just this one little part of the world, and make that poignant, and make it move you. And I've always admired that.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for art house movies, and warned. Within limits, there are some really bad Vietnamese art house movies that make you go,
oh yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think we've gone a fairly long time now, so I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. So, wrap up. here is recommendations. What have you been reading, watching, and or learning lately? I always recommend Skillshare.com to anybody that wants to learn some extra skills. They always update you on fantastic different classes, and you can either pay for individual classes or, like what I do, I have an annual membership that's actually fairly cheap. You can pay the $10 a month, and you can take any one of their classes. Or they've got a yearly membership that has a discount to it. It's about $100 a year. So, you know, they give you a little discount if you do the yearly instead of the monthly. Or you can just pay for the individual class. And I mean, there are some fantastic classes in there. There's an inking class by Yuko Shimizu that I believe I pronounced her name right. She's a fantastic illustrator, and her inking skills are phenomenal. And just watching her work alone, let alone talk shop about what types of brushes and inks she uses, paper, things like that, it makes you drool a bit, yes. And there are several digital classes on making comics, coloring comics, and writing comics. So, I mean, there's also just some basic writing classes, short story writing, writing for newspaper and magazine articles. I mean, you know, bump up your game, you know, give yourself an edge. You might as well learn. You're alive, you're functioning, and the classes don't have a time limit, so you can do it at your own pace. So if you start into it, and then you need to set it aside for whatever reason, and then come back to it a week, a month later, you can. And they recently came up with an app that you can now download the classes to. So guess what my tablet is full of right now? Yes. It's delicious. But what I've been reading lately is some old comics I've been trawling through, because everybody that has been paying attention to the podcast lately knows I'm in the middle of moving, and so I've been digging up some of my older comics. This one is called Zombie Calling. It's by Erin Faith Hicks. She's got a number of other books out, far more recent. But this is some of her earlier self-published stuff through Slave Labor Graphics. Fantastic zombie story, and I love her inking style. It's just
kind of looks like gorillas.
But this is some of my bigger inspirations. Faith and Becky Glunin are my two big American influences. I prefer more traditional style comics, but that's just me. Digital ones aren't bad at all. I read a million of them. Literally, my webcomics list alone, I've got at least 300 comics on here.
And you keep up with them?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's called feeds. You just set up the aggregate feed.
Yeah, feeds. I like feeds.
My problem is actually reading other people's work rather than working on my own.
High five.
High
five.
Drawing.
No, I specify during the day when I'm working, if I'm not fully into my job, like on my breaks and my lunch, I'm reading through the feeds. Then when I get off work and come home, that's when I work on comics, writing, or doing Skillshare classes, or working one of my other many jobs.
Okay.
I'm busy. So, Eric, do you have any recommendations?
Well, one thing that I will say that really give you some advice that really improved my artwork. There was a 7-year gap, and I didn't draw anything. I was just doing 3D models and rigging characters for animation. because the Blue Next was going to be an CGI show. So one thing that really let my art skills improve was looking at finding the comics that I really liked and trying to mimic what they did, but take it even further. So such comic artists that I would suggest is Scott E. Witt. He does a comic strip called Fanboys Online, and it's about three roommates. One's a girl who's an Xbox. She's an Xbox fan. The older guy, he is a PlayStation fan, and the other guy, who's kind of girly, is a Nintendo fan, and they're fanboys of those franchises, of those consoles. It's a gaming strip, but it's a very well drawn gaming strip. His earlier stuff, you compare his earlier stuff, like the first 3 years, to his latest stuff. He hasn't updated in a while, but his artwork really did inspire me to push the limits, because he has a pretty cartoony, realistic characters that he manages to get some of the best expressions that I've seen. Not as good as John Kay with Ren and Stimpy, but close enough. And it's just funny because the like I said, acting matters, and the acting in the characters yeah. So there's an artist I would suggest, and I've also found myself going through the old Garfield comics, starting reading from 1978, and I read up to like 1985. And realized, no, find a formula that you're good at. So, and yeah, and if you ever want to, see techniques, I always like to watch Mike Krahulik draw. Mike Krahulik, Penny Arcade. And he uses the Surface Pro, which I also use when I'm not at home. So, and what I've been watching, Family Guy. So, yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah.
All right, Olivia, your turn.
Well, I'll start off with what I've been reading, because I've been reading some pretty fun stuff. I've been reading The Adventures of the Lady Skylark, which is a webcomic by Jackie Musto. I would read anything by Jackie Musto. Her other piece is K&P, and I'll post up a link of that real quick.
Yes, please.
And her artwork, I should have mentioned, is one of, not necessarily my inspirations, but definitely one of my favorite influences. Anytime I see her work, it pushes me to try harder at my own. That's K&P, and you can get The Adventures of the Lady Skylark from there. The other one, like I said, is Delilah Dirk. If you haven't read it, read it. One of the wonderful things is it's steampunk, it's adventure, it's Victoriana, and nobody has to fall in love. They can be friends. This can actually happen. Where the girl can be an adventure hero who doesn't get swept off her feet or end up happily married at the end. She ends up happy. And I'm kind of sick of all the girls getting married off in order to make them complete characters. In fact, I'm going to post another link real quick. I do a piece called The Strip Show, which is a review blog of all sizes of webcomics, and my next little monthly matinee / rant is going to be about how to write characters that are complete in themselves without needing them to, say, fall in love. Because falling in love is fine, as long as it's not emotional duct tape on a character. So also, speaking of things to learn and things to learn from, in my opinion, you can learn from every level of artist, including looking at what not to do. So that's what I cover in the Strip Show, is things to do as an artist or a writer and things not to do. And people that I look up to who do it perfectly, I would say would probably be She's not a comic artist, but Emma Bull. And people pick on me for this one, but Charles DeLint. I think he does some of the best writing you'll ever find. It's urban fantasy, but he makes his characters live. He makes real people who are in stories, not characters carrying a plot, if that makes sense. In terms of art, in my opinion, pick up a good anatomy book first, because all the tricks and doodles in the world aren't going to help you if you don't know how to put a human body together. And I know this from personal experience, because I used to have these grandiose ideas. I still do. Grandiose ideas, and then I start drawing them, and I realize I don't know how an elbow bends. So I really focus on anatomy and physiology before I really made Parmesan real, and I still have problems with it. But I would go to Pose Maniacs. I would go to Sketch the Girl. I would even go to DeviantArt and just type in anatomy tutorials. There are some great ones out there. And always, whatever you're drawing, start at the level of the bones. Start at anatomy and work up. If you're drawing an angel, start with condor wings. Because there's nothing more embarrassing than this beautifully drawn, perfectly muscled angel with the wings, feather patterns going the wrong direction. Or messed up, or just drawn in as loopy-loops. Because you just ruined a perfect piece of work with laziness, essentially. And it's, again, do your research. So, yeah, my recommendation for anybody is go to an anatomy book. But Pose Maniac is great because it gives you a 3-day sculpture of the human musculature that you can turn. And
Nice.
that's wonderful because there's nothing worse. For example, I was trying to draw Bax wielding a knife, which is her basic weapon. Couldn't figure out how you hold a knife. You know, you've seen it in the movies a million times, but you can't picture it. So that's what Pose Maniacs is great for, is how does that hand turn when you're holding something? Yeah, but it's a different... I couldn't see it in the mirror. I couldn't get it to work. Pose Maniacs saved me.
You can't see it, it's not going to get made, right?
Exactly. If you can't see it, it's going to come out wrong. So if you can see it, I'm a slave to reference photos. That's my other thing for a lot of artists is quit apologizing for using reference photos. Use them. Go to Google and Google bird, Google horse. Look this stuff up. Because saying, oh, yeah, that's lazy artwork, no, that's good research.
Actually, lazy artwork is spriting.
Yes. Do your research. Even if you're drawing My Little Pony, still know how the anatomy works on a horse. Know what a fetlock is. So that's my recommendations in terms of being an artist. It's still work, and it's still research.
Huh.
It's just visual research. Lots and lots and lots of research. So those are my recommendations. And look at history. Because a lot of times, like you were saying, being the original white boy, being the original American who doesn't know a lot, we need history because it thinks of better ideas than we do. So we get a lot better ideas by knowing a lot and feeding our imaginations good food than we do by going, I'm going to create something. It doesn't mean you're a hack. You're not copying. You're just feeding your imagination good food. If you don't feed your body good food, you're sick. If you don't feed your imagination good food, your stories don't live. So I'll stop there because I'm talking too much.
Don't worry about that. All right. Well, thank you both so much for coming by the podcast. I do appreciate it, and you're always welcome to come back, hang out, generally update everybody on what you've been doing lately, and shoot the breeze.
Awesome.
So, well, and thank you everybody for listening and or watching. We appreciate it, and hope to see you guys next month. All right. Now, my name's Melony. I do ornamentalcomic.com. Thank you, Eric from bluenex.com, and thank you, Olivia from permission.webcomic.ws.
And that's the
I got it right.
Blue Necks.
The Blue Necks.
Yeah, not NEX, NECKS.
Correct spelling, people. Correct spelling. Like I said, I'll have all the links down in the doobly-doo. So, thanks, everybody. So, bye.
All right, bye.